This is the screencast for Lesson 23a. It's the first try it in Lesson 23, and you can find its solution in the download under Try It 23a. In this try it, we're going to create a simple person class, and we're going to give it a few little validations to make sure that some of its values at least make sense. This is the form I've created for this program. It doesn't do anything right now. The next thing we need to do is create our person class. We want it to be able to hold these values, first name, last name, street, and so forth. So I'll go up to the project menu and pick Add Class. I'm going to give it the name Person. And initially we get this empty class. Now what we need to do is add properties, and in more general classes we would add methods and events to the class as well. For right now we're just going to add properties. So these first few I'm just going to make auto-implemented. So I'm going to say public string street get set. So this one is automatically implemented. I don't need any other code for it. I'm going to copy that a few times for some of these others that are also auto-implemented. City, state, and zip. Now it wouldn't be very hard to add extra validations here. For example, state, if you want to require 2-letter abbreviations, you could easily check in the set accessor that the state value being passed in has 2 characters only. Similarly with the zip code, if you're using US zip codes, you could look for either the zip 5 or the zip +4 format. But we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to validate the first and last names. So public string, this is going to be my backing variable, my backing field, first name, and initially I'm going to set it equal to a blank string. And then now we need to create the property accessors for this thing. So I'll say public string first name. Now I'm using Pascal casing because this is a property. And inside here I'm going to say get and set. The get accessor requires that you return something, so it's complaining that I haven't returned anything yet. I'm simply going to have it return first name, my backing field. In the set accessor, if I was going to make just a simple property kind of analogous to what the auto-implemented properties are like, I would simply say here the backing variable equals the value being passed in. But we want to do a little bit of validation first. So first, let's see if value is null. What shall we do? Let's throw an exception. So I'm going to throw a new argument out of range exception. I'm going to use this overloaded version here, which takes the parameter name and a message string. And I'm sorry, it's chopped off on the right side of the screen. So the parameter name is first name, and the message I'm going to pass in is person.firstName cannot be null. All right, I also want to check and make sure that I haven't been given a blank string, which is different from null. Null means the parameter doesn't point to anything at all. A blank string is a string that just happens to not contain any characters. So I'm going to say if value dot length is less than 1, I'm also going to throw an argument out of range exception, and it's going to be the same parameter name, and it's going to say person.firstName cannot be blank. And if we pass both of those conditions, then I'm going to use this first name equals value to save the value. All right, the code for the last name is almost identical, so I'm just going to copy and paste this code. And then in place of the string first, I'm going to press Control H to find and replace. I'm going to replace first with last in the selection. And then now I have to do a little cleanup because it didn't get my capitalization quite the way I wanted it. So the property's name is going to be in Pascal case. Here we've got last name, person.lastName cannot be null, person.lastName cannot be blank, and here last name equals value. Open right there, one more. So that should do it for my validations. They're very simple. They're not really meaningful validations, but they show you how to, they give you an idea of how to do it. So back over here on the main form, when we click the Create button, I want to create an object that has all of these properties. So I'm going to create a new person. And I'm going to set it equal to new person. And now I'm going to set the properties. Oh, and one other thing here. Some of these properties, the validations may fail, and particularly the first and last name are going to fail at times. That's the whole point here. So I'm going to set these values inside a try-catch block. I'm going to catch the exception, and I'm simply going to display a message box telling the user whatever I learned from the message. All right, so new person dot first name equals what could it equal? It's whatever's in the first name text box. New person dot last name equals whatever's in the last name text box. And I noticed when I pressed the dot there, I was given the option right here of using this backing field. I don't want that. Let me go back and look at my class for a second. Yeah, I was typing too fast and I made my backing fields public. Generally, you want those fields to be private, and only the property itself should be public. That way, if the backing field was also public, then in this place I could defeat the whole purpose by making this set the backing field directly. That would be bad. Now it's not going to let me because I've made it inaccessible. So let's fill in a couple more of these. New person.street equals street text box.text. New person.city equals city text box.text. And same for the state. And finally, the zip code. So let's run the program and see what happens. So first, if I click the Create button now, it should successfully create a new person object. Okay, it didn't do anything visible. Let me add a message box at the end here just so we know it succeeded. And in fact, I'm going to add it in here inside the try block. If I put it after the try block, then it would display this success message even if we had an error, and it also displayed this message. And that would be kind of silly for it to say could not create the person, or could not set the person's first name, and then it says OK. So let's run it again. We'll try to create this default John Jackson person, and it does that successfully. Now let's blank out his first name and try it again, and I get an error. Person.firstname cannot be blank, parameter name first name. So that's the sort of message that you get by throwing this kind of an exception. That's all there is to this example. If you want some practice, you could go back into this person class and perform better validations on some of these others. For example, street not blank, city not blank, state is 2 letters, zip code is either 5 letters or the zip plus 4 format.